Okay, so the communication workers went on strike, and they sent all the managers out to work to take their jobs. The men, not the women. And at that time, I was living in New Jersey, and my husband was in the same district, and they sent him to Michigan. Now, it happened, my husband was kind of good old boys with the district manager that we worked for. So one day, the district manager comes over to my desk, and he goes, "Hey, Barbara," he said, "I was on the phone with your husband last night, and I told him he better be calling you a lot, or you're going to be running around here with bright red lipstick and no bra." And I cannot believe he actually said that to me. Here I am, I'm a software engineer. I got this whole organization to use these automated tools. I wrote a book, and he is talking to me like I am a sexual object, the possession of my husband. So I'm thinking, all right, I'm not getting promoted, I'm being treated like this, maybe it's time to move on. So I head west. I go out to the Silicon Valley. So now I'm out here, it's the 90s, I'm playing with the big boys, and girls. Well, there's a few girls, not too many, still not too many. And I'm on the business side now. So I'm doing acquisitions, I'm doing resale deals, I'm doing the deal. So I have so many stories. Again, I could talk an hour about that, but a couple of things that I thought were interesting. One time I'm at Intel, and Intel has this big PowerPoint presentation. They have this whole plan, and they lay it out, and their big idea is that there was probably like 20 vendors there. They want us all get together, and they want to take down Microsoft. And I'm like, yeah, that worked out well. And then the other thing that happened was one day, one of the guys that works for me, he comes running into my office and he goes, "I have this guy on the phone, and he's putting together all this hardware components, and he's trying to build computers with them. And he wants to get a copy of our software and see if he can make it work." And I'm going like, he said, "He's just starting out." And I'm like, "Well, what's his name?" And he goes, "Michael Dell." And I go, "Oh yeah, I think he's going places. Give him a copy of our software." So I thought, okay, this redeems me from the Unix disaster. Now I've called it right. So, and I couldn't get promoted, but that's okay. I was still a manager. But anyway, and then the other thing that was interesting was we worked for this genius guy. I mean, you can't start a company where you create a product and you turn it into a huge multi-million-dollar business in the Silicon Valley and be a normal person, I don't think. So he was this British guy, and he had this house in the UK that was like 1,000 years old. I'm not exaggerating. And it was like a rectangle, and it had one of those things where it had the Great Hall in the center. If anybody knows anything about the UK architecture, it's hollowed out. And in the middle, he has this giant trampoline and this roaring fireplace that he had fires. The fires were even going in the middle of the summer. I don't know why. And he had these giant sheepdogs. He had like 2 giant sheepdogs. I mean, they were like as big as a miniature horse. And they were always muddy, and they would run wild, and they would run all over the papers and the contracts and everything, and you couldn't say anything. And he would never go visit a vendor. Whenever anybody wanted to do business with us, they would have to come to us. And in those days, you weren't bringing a laptop and a thumb drive. You were bringing like these gigundous pieces of equipment. And they would show up, and he would be in his pajamas, and they would be sitting around waiting while he got dressed. And one day, he wanted to do speech in the product. So we have these guys coming from Belgium, and he's not there. So we're all sitting around. There's like 12, 15 people there. We're all waiting for him. Like 3 hours later, he shows up in a helicopter, lands on the lawn, comes out, hands me 2 bottles of like $50 French wine, says, "Get in the library, make them do the deal. Don't come out till they do the deal." So I go in there. They don't even speak English. So I'm working on this. They want like 100 million. He says do it for 10 million. And like somehow I kind of made it work after a long time. We all had champagne. That was the end of that. So that was that. And there's a dark side in Silicon Valley, which still exists. We all know about Google and some of the other stories. And it existed then. And I mean, I have many stories I could tell about that. And one of them was, one day I'm having this dinner with another vendor, and I think we're having a meeting. He thinks we're on a date. So at the end of the dinner, he says to me, well, I'm married. I'm not getting divorced, but I like to sleep with you. And I'm like, does this ever work? And he goes, 3 out of 5 times. And I go, well, this is 2 out of 5. And, you know, that was, from my understanding, it may still be just like that, but I'll get feedback on that. So, like I said, I couldn't get promoted. I couldn't get past that glass ceiling. I wanted to be an executive. I'm doing these deals with CEOs, and I'm a manager. So I'm thinking, all right, the only way I'm getting through this glass ceiling is to start my own company, which is what I did. So I started InfoShark. I went back east, bought 40 acres in West Virginia. I mean, we were building an internet company, so I could walk the talk. So we built a product called XML Shark. I think it was pretty cool. What it did was it took a slice of a SQL database, and it was Oracle and SQL Server. We were working on DB2, dished it up through the internet to a user to do whatever they want, which now it's kind of maybe ho-hum, but 15 years ago, it was pretty hot. So after we did that, we needed some venture capital to market and sell. And I know VC money is hard for women to get now, but then it was really hard. But we did get 3 rounds, $12 million, and we were off and running. And there, the male-female thing was more subtle. Like, I would go on our second round of funding. I remember visiting a VC, and he said, I really wanted to meet the woman that got so far. And I thought, And it could have been a compliment, you know, maybe, I don't know. And then the other thing that, and this really annoyed me, was that the VCs had a stable of companies that they were all investing in, and they would take the companies to Fortune 50, Fortune 500 companies and open doors for them, and they never did that for us, and that really burned me. But we did really good. We got some big customers. We did First Fidelity, we had Treasury, we had US, we had LA Sheriff's Department. So we had a good run, and then the dot-com bubble burst, and we bit the dust. So that was that. So at this point, I'm kind of burned out a little bit, so I decide I need a sabbatical, and I go off to teach school for a while. I taught high school math, and I actually taught kids that had needed discipline. They were part of the normal school system, but they'd been suspended. So that was kind of interesting. But it was refreshing dealing with teenagers for a change, let me tell you. So I did that for a while. And then my daughter, I call her the serial entrepreneur because she also started InfoShark with me. She had founded SJ Technologies, and to be honest, which says it hasn't changed as much as I would wish, for the same reasons I started InfoShark, she started her own company. And SJ Technologies is this awesome company. It does DevOps services, consulting, and workshops. And she recruited me out of teaching, so I came back, and I'm doing technology research there in DevOps, and I work with John Willis, and I'm very proud to say that he treats me as a total equal with respect. So that's really awesome. So I'm kind of insulated there. I don't deal with anything negative, but I certainly obviously haven't forgotten. And I would really like to hear from all of you, men and women, of your opinion of what's going on out there. Like, what's it like? I mean, I go to these conferences and I see the ratio of men to women, and it's definitely alarms me. But I like I say, I would really like to hear from you. And if anybody emails me, I promise I will return their email. I'm on Twitter. And I think I do have some time, so I have about 5 minutes. Does anybody have a question?
Yeah, we have a couple minutes. If you have any questions, we can take a few questions from the audience.
No?
Hi, yes, so it's a question around, there are not a lot of women in the field. How do we fix that as a general population? What are some of the things that we can do to inspire and encourage others, females to join the cause?
Well, I think one thing that is obvious is the recruiting. And I think that, you know, the net needs to be cast wider. And I think a lot of recruiting is done by human resources. And I think I'm sensing there's a tendency to let the recruiting be done more by the people that are going to be working with the people they're hiring. Is that true? Yes? Is that true? Tell me. Raise your hands if that's true. Okay. So that should be helpful. But I'm not sure. Is it a hiring problem? I mean, somebody let me know. What do you guys think the problem is?
Do you think it's sooner than that, like engaging when they're younger? And how might we do that?
What do you guys think? Some of the women, tell me.
Just, you don't get women applying at the volume that you get men applying.
Okay.
Most of the people who are already working places are men, and they tend to want to hire people who are similar to them. So it's kind of this cycle that continues. It's like the more diverse people you bring in, the more they'll bring other people like them in, and have an overall more diverse workplace. But we're kind of perpetuating this cycle right now.
So it's like likes like.
Yes.
We tend to.
That's been my experience.
So guys, do you think that's true? Yeah?
Speaking as an African American, and I'm new getting to the industry, trying to get an entry level role, I think that from my personal perspective, growing up in an impoverished situation, and just seeing the experience that I had in life, it does bring a new perspective to things. I think that some companies are actually seeing that, and I really honestly don't feel like companies are just either saying or just have the mindset of, you know what, we're just not hiring an African American, we're not just hiring a woman. I don't think that's what it is. I think that the gap that arises at one, that we have to focus, and if you disagree, please, you know, tell me if I'm off in my opinion, that one, it's lack of knowledge of that it's possible to the younger generation. What is possible? What they're able to do? Because they're not seeing a lot of, you know, women in the field. Like, you don't see a lot of women CEOs that are the head of these giant tech companies. You know, they're not, the ones that are out there, they're not in the limelight as much as they should be. There's not enough minorities as they should be in the limelight, you know, to be able to see that. And I think that all systemically comes from one aspect. I don't think it's race, I don't think it's gender, I don't think it's a creed, I don't think it's any of that. I think what it has to do with is the bigger overlying problem is economic. So it's an economic component. So a single mother, you know, started life, she has kids, she's capable of being able to, has an attitude to be able to do so. She doesn't know it's available, and she doesn't have the financial wherewithal to say, you know what, I need to invest $1,500 into a MacBook, and you know, be able to, you know, I gotta have stable broadband connection. Those things are kind of changing, but even in Arizona, like, there's a place called Havasu Falls. I don't know if anybody's ever seen it. Like, it looks like it's the widest, beautiful waterfall, right? And so that village, it's a 10-mile hike in and out. And the only way you can get supplies in and out is either by helicopter or by mule. And that's in Arizona. That's like a reality today. So how are those children going to get access to technology? That doesn't mean they're not capable. They need to connect to Mark Zuckerberg that's sitting right there. And we don't know them. We don't know that's going on in the barrios or the hoods or the trailer park or the village. We don't know. I think there's so much available. I think it's economic more so than anything. If anyone disagrees, if you disagree, you let me know.
So it's also the pool and the opportunity for the people, in your opinion?
So I just wanted to comment on what I've seen in the engineering field. A lot of times I'll see women who are very tech savvy, very intelligent engineers, but they end up landing in the business analysis side, or they get shoved into the project management because all the men around them show them a lot of respect, but they look to them to guide them and structure them into, it's almost like a mother hen kind of thing. So as much as women want to be technical leaders, they end up being leaders in the project and leaders in the business side of things, as opposed to really being seen as technical engineers.
I think the guy in front of you wanted to say something. No? That gentleman right there.
Also in my experience, like, I work for a relatively small company. We have probably about 30 to 40 technical people, and I believe the only women we have are on our QA staff or are in product management. And I think that we would be opposed to hiring. I'm not in charge of hiring, obviously, but in my experience, we don't get resumes submitted for it. Like, we usually go through recruiters, and recruiters aren't handling those resumes for it. So I don't know if it's also a problem at
Could be.
it's just not coming in our way to even act upon that information.
That's an interesting, I haven't heard that yet.
So, being a software engineer, I can kind of tell you my history or my story. So, in third grade, I was introduced to computers. I was programming, basic stuff like that. But then, about high school, I kind of took the direction of the typical kind of female thing, became a preschool teacher, jumped jobs.
Why?
Because that was, I didn't even know that I could have a job and career as a programmer. It wasn't kind of introduced to me, it was just something I did for fun. And then it actually took me getting laid off 3 times in 3 years to reevaluate my career choices. And I was like, well, what did I like to do when I was younger? Like to program. Oh, can I do that as a job? Oh, yeah, I can. And it's fun, and it's easy, and, you know, just came naturally. So I've been doing it for over 10 years, but, so there's, I think, a lot of different aspects of why women are in technology. There's the beginning of understanding that women are, it is an option. You know, it is a great career if you like doing it. And then, once I got into the tech industry, different cultures, and, you know, I've had guys come up to me and they're like, you're 1 in a million. And I'm like, okay, thanks. Why am I 1 in a million? Oh, because you're a competent female developer. And I was like, okay, I don't know how to take that. So there's like that type of culture as well that you kind of have to, deal with as a female developer. You have to be able to address it. And
But did anybody push you out of the computer thing when you went for the education thing? Or you just did it yourself?
it was just, I kind of just did it myself. As it was, when I was looking for what I wanted to do as a career, it was kind of the things that were listed were, even when I did, did a test, you say, oh, what careers do you want to do? And number one thing was teacher.
Oh,
It wasn't computer science. It wasn't, even though I had the aptitude for it, it wasn't really up there. So I think it's a complex question. And there's a lot of different aspects based on the individual.
yeah.